Let us begin our second part. So we are now in the progressive shock. So it is mainly caused by the viscous cycle of CVS deterioration. We already discussed in the first part how the viscous cycle is formed because of positive feedback mechanism. So cardiac, here in progressive shock we already know here's the with the proper treatment again the person may recover. Next let us see cardiac depression. So whenever the arterial pressure is low, then the coronary blood flow also will be low. So this leads to in turn weakening of heart and decreased cardiac output, and also again leading to positive feedback which in turn increases the shock. So initially only the less deterioration takes place, but at the final stages it may also be lethal. So you can say this is about cardiac depression. Next we're going to vasomotor failure. Decrease in blood flow to the vasomotor center makes it inactive, and in just 4 to 8 minutes the complete cerebral blood flow will decrease, but the systemic discharge will be still present. So but in later 10 to 15 minutes completely even the systemic discharge also disappears. So because of this you can understand completely the vasomotor center may undergo failure. So fortunately actually this vasomotor center usually don't fail in early stages of shock if the arterial pressure is above 30. So it also have some limit value of arterial pressure 30. If the arterial pressure is above 30, then the vasomotor center may not fail. Next, let us see the blockage of small vessels by sludged blood. So you can see the blockage of small vessels by sludged blood. Sludged blood means more viscous blood. So because of more viscosity, the blood moves slowly. So their small vessels may have more chance to get blocked because of their narrow lumen. So sluggish microvessels flow because of accumulation of carbonic acid, lactic acid, and this continue to empty the local blood vessels and further increase the acidity, and all this cause the agglutination. Because of acidity all the blood cells come nearer, they get agglutinated, resulting in clots and plugs in small vessels. So because of this there is also seen increase in viscosity and increase in capillary permeability after hypoxia. They decrease the blood volume, decrease the cardiac output, in turn further increase in the shock. So these are all mainly seen in the small vessels. So release of toxins by ischemic tissue like histamine, serotonin, tissue enzymes. They also deteriorate the circulatory system. And cardiac depression by endotoxins mainly released, endotoxins are released by gram negative bacteria, it is mainly in the intestine. So because of this also there is decreased blood flow to the intestine, and also toxins are released increase because of increase in metabolism, and further this also lead to cardiac depression. And generalized cell deterioration is also seen whenever the shock is infected, shock is increased. Whenever shock is increased the liver is also affected, and because of that there is decrease of nutrients and exposure of toxins. So why liver gets affected mainly is because of decrease in nutrients and exposure of toxins. Here in the shock the blood is now sluggish, so because of this it has more chance to exposure to toxins, and also the nutrients are very low in the agglutinated bed, and blood volume is also low in shock, right? So active transport of sodium and potassium by the cell membrane is decreased. So the sodium potassium accumulates in the cell, and potassium is also lost and cell swells. Whenever potassium is lost, sodium is coming inside, means water is also following sodium. So because of this the cells may swell, and the mitochondrial activity in the liver and also other tissues are depressed, and the lysosomes break open with the intracellular release of hydrolysis and cause the intracellular deterioration. So cellular metabolism of nutrients, that is glucose, decrease in the last stages, and the action of hormones is decreased 100%. So depression of action of insulin, deterioration of liver, depression of metabolic, and detoxification is also lost because liver is lost, that is liver function is lost. And in lungs we may see pulmonary edema associated with poor oxygenation of blood, and in heart you can see the depressed contractility. So all these are the causes of shock. You can see how it is affecting badly. Finally it may lead to death of the patient because it is acting on the major organs, and even tissue necrosis is seen in severe shock, like patchy area of necrosis occur because of patchy blood flow in different organs. And in liver, heart, punctuate lesions are seen. In kidney you can see kidney failure, uremic death. In lungs you can see respiratory distress, death. So because of lungs, if someone die, means because of any lung problem they die or due to shock, then it is called as shock lung syndrome. And next let us see acidosis in shock. So acidosis means metabolic dearrangements like acidosis in the all body. Because of acidosis, there is poor oxygen delivery to the tissues, so this in turn decreases the oxidative metabolism of food. And you can see the cells get energy by mainly anaerobic glycolysis here, because now oxygen is low. This leads to increase in lactic acid in blood. So all this you can see acidosis means increase in acids. Lactic acid is increased. Now carbon dioxide react with water to increase intracellular carbonic acid, tissue chemicals, acid is increased. So this leads to deterioration of shock, and by generalized and local tissue acidosis there is progression of shock. So you can see this is how the progressive stage looks. All tissues, all body, it's like all cells completely almost damaged. And now let us see the positive feedback, deterioration of tissue in shock and viscous circle of progressive shock. So if shock increase, it further increases shock. We know this is the positive feedback. So positive feedback is a viscous cycle. Mild shock, in the mild shock we'll see the negative feedback, hence it has recovery chance. So by sympathetic reflex, reverse stress relaxation, absorption of fluid into blood from interstitium, this all we already seen. This can overcome the positive feedback and cause recovery. But here in the critical level, the cardiac output drops, everything. If you can see, in the critical level, above the shock recovers and below. So in the critical cardiac output level, above the cardiac output level, the shock recovers, but below it, the viscous cycle develops and proceeds until the death forms. So let us see now the worst case irreversible shock. Here even the treatment is not, so any therapy is also not leading to any recovery. Sometimes very rare cardiac output and arterial pressure may come to normal by some treatments, but again the cardiac output decreases very drastically and decrease pumping of heart, finally leading to death of the person. It has of course increased acidosis, increased tissue damage, increased destructive enzymes, high energy phosphate reserves in liver and heart also decrease in shock, and this decrease creatinine phosphates are decreased, ATP is decreased, ATP is converted into ADP, into AMP, into adenosine, adenosine in turn convert to uric acid, and this new adenosine is formed by re-entry of uric acid and produce at 2% of new adenosine per hour. We already know this. So once the phosphates are fault, difficult to replenish, finally shock, final stage. So final stage indicator of shock is, you can see the phosphates are very low in the blood. So by this we can say that we have got to final stage of shock, that is irreversible shock. So hypovolemic shock caused by plasma loss. Plasma loss means you know the plasma, which is also an extracellular fluid which is present in the vessels. So if plasma loss also, it may lead to hypovolemic shock, of course, that is total blood volume is decreased, intestine obstruction. So what are the reasons why the plasma is lost? In any, because of any intestine obstruction, you know in intestine obstruction plasma volume is decreased due to distension of intestine and block the venous blood flow. So increase in capillary pressure lead to the interstitium, decrease plasma protein volume. So you can see if sometime if blood vessel get dilated and increase the permeability, lot of fluid goes into the interstitium. So because of this also plasma volume is lost. And in severe burns there is loss of plasma and increase RBC, so that increase viscosity and sluggish blood flow. Again clots may form here. And in dehydration also there is hypovolemic shock, especially in excessive sweating, diarrhea, vomiting, in all these conditions fluid is lost from the body, so in turn also leading to decrease in plasma volume. Loss of fluid by kidney, decrease intake of fluid, electrolytes, loss of aldosterone, destruction of cortex, of failure of kidney to absorb sodium, chlorine, water, absence of adrenal cortical hormone aldosterone. So aldosterone, what is main function? To absorb the reabsorb the sodium and water. So if it is absent, you can understand the situation. Lot of fluid is always lost in the urine. So what happens now? The blood volume, the plasma volume decreases. So these are all the cases where you can see hypovolemic shock mainly caused by plasma loss. So this is our last page to complete. So you can see the hypovolemic shock by trauma. Trauma means because of any problem and an injury. So the most common cause of circulatory shock is because of trauma. Here also plasma loss or due to any toxic factors or due to hypovolemia or neurogenic shock by loss of vasomotor tone. So now let us see how neurogenic shock is caused. Actually neurogenic shock, there is vascular capacities increase, that is loss of vasomotor tone, massive dilation of veins and neurogenic shock. So here the vascular capacity is increased, decrease in mean systemic filling pressure, decrease in venous return, in turn, decrease in cardiac output by vascular dilation, called venous pooling of blood. So here the problem in neurogenic shock is all the blood is staying just in the venous side. It is not able to come to the systemic side. So because of this, the cardiac output decreases. So what are the main causes of this neurogenic shock? That is deep general anesthesia. If you give anesthesia very deep, it may depress the vasomotor center, in turn lead to vasomotor paralysis, and spinal anesthesia, which may block the sympathetic outflow, and brain damage. In brain damage also the blood pressure is increased, vasomotor paralysis, decrease in arterial blood pressure. So these are the three main reasons, causes you can see in the neurogenic shock. Next, let us see the anaphylactic shock or histamine shock. This is mainly due to allergy, decrease in cardiac output, decrease in arterial pressure due to allergy by antigen antibody reaction. Actually, why this happens? The allergic antigen, if something allergic antigen to a specific body, if it enters, then this antigen is attacked by our antibody. They form antigen antibody reaction and cause the basophils in the blood and mast cells in the pericapillary release the histamine and histamine like substance. So because of this, histamine is a vasodilator, increase vascular capacity due to dilation, decrease venous return, dilation of arterioles, decrease arterial pressure, increase capillary permeability, loss of fluid plus pressure into tissue spaces, so decrease venous return, serious shock, die within minutes. So sometimes the people also may die within minutes. So in a recent case we are seeing the COVID vaccination. In COVID vaccination we mainly see for this anaphylactic shock. So we say to the patients or the people to say, just sit for a few minutes so that we can observe any anaphylactic reactions in them. So that is the reason behind it. So intravenous, if you give more histamine to the patient, it may lead to histamine shock. So histamine shock is we are directly giving histamine to the patient and causing the shock. So it is mainly also identical to anaphylactic shock. Here also because antigen antibody reaction may takes place, allergic reaction and leading to shock. So finally we come to septic shock. This is because of mainly bacteria. So blood poisoning by bacteria. It may be gram positive or gram negative, but gram positive is most common, and others by gram negative. Always gram negative form endotoxin, whereas gram positive form exotoxin. So whatever the toxin, it is leading to shock here. So what are the reasons? You can see the 5 reasons here. The first one is peritonitis. In the name you can see the inflammation of peritoneum. The spread from uterus to from the fallopian tube, from instrumental abortion under the unsterile conditions. So if you do any kind of operation with unsterile conditions, then the bacteria have easy chance to go inside. And peritonitis from GI rupture, mainly by intestinal wounds or any disease related to it, or spread of skin infection like streptococcal, staphylococcal, generalized body infections, or generalized gangrenous infections from gas gangrene bacilli. First the peripheral, and finally by the way of blood it may enter to the internal organs, especially it may affect the liver. And the infection is spread to the blood mainly from kidney or urinary tract and caused by the colon bacilli. So all this may lead to infection that leads to sepsis. And next you can see the microblood clots, that is DIC, disseminated intravascular coagulation. So actually in this case you can see both clotting at the same time even hemorrhage, because all the coagulation factors are used up here, so there is no more clotting factors present in the body. So whenever you get any hemorrhage it continuously leaks. So in gut wall of GIT you can see this DIC. So treatment, what are the treatment for shock? Let us see. First one is replacement therapy. You can glue bread or why replacement is playing major role, because here it is hypovolemic. Whenever any kind of shock, the volume of blood is decreased. So we need to increase the volume by giving directly the blood to the patient, or you can also give plasma to the patient. So remember, in emergency mainly we use the plasma instead of whole blood. If it is not available, we can use plasma. And also we are now finding the substitute of plasma which is derived from the bacteria itself, that is called dextran. So dextran is actually a polymer of glucose. It is used as a substitute nowadays, which it is also having a property to not move from the pores outside. So here as the patient problem is hypovolemic shock, because now if we give this to the patient, it will stay for longer time in the blood itself, it will not go into the interstitial space. And sympathomimetic drug, so this is mimicking the sympathetic system. Mainly norepinephrine, epinephrine play the main role here. So in an anaphylactic shock mainly histamine plays a main role here. And this sympathomimetic drug is not so valuable in hemorrhagic shock. So remember, it is mainly valuable in anaphylactic shock, but in hemorrhagic shock, it's not valuable because the body itself leads to increase in sympathetic stimulation. So again, we no need to give this kind of drug here. And next, coming to treatment of we also use different treatment like head down position. Like we say the patient to bend his head lower than the its leg. So because of this, the venous return may increase and it may improve the shock of the patient. So 12 minutes we take this person, 12 minutes we say him to bend the head below the leg. So increase venous return, put the head lower than legs. And other therapy, oxygen therapy, of course, because of shock, blood flow is low, so oxygen supply to the tissues is also low. So here we also say the person to give the oxygen, so oxygen supply increase. But the main role here is not to give oxygen but giving blood, because if you give blood, automatically even oxygen values will improve, right? And next other treatment is glucocorticoids. We can control the glucose metabolism. Glucocorticoids are used to control the glucose metabolism. They mainly increase the strength of the heart and stabilize lysosomes, and also metabolism of glucose by severely damaged cells. So finally we have circulatory arrest. So if circulatory arrest, in the name you can see circulation is completely stopped. So all blood flow is stopped as a result of cardiac arrest or fibrillation. In fibrillation, abnormal rhythms in a heart, and cardiac arrest, heart failure. So by mainly by electroshock you can stop the fibrillations, and cardiac arrest, normal cardiac rhythm is restored by applying cardiopump recirculation procedure. So we can use that procedure to bring again rhythms normal, and also supply the patient's lung with ventilatory oxygen. Here also we need to give oxygen because of fibrillations and cardiac arrest. Because of mainly cardiac arrest, even the respiratory cycles may change in the person, so we need to even provide the ventilatory oxygen. So finally I come to circulatory arrest effect on brain. So how circulatory changes arrests effects on brain? If the blood flow stops, how it affects brain, you can understand it may lead to stroke also, because complete blood flow may stop. So you can see just in 5 to 8 minutes there may be permanent brain damage, or in 10 to 15 minutes the mental power completely decreases. So these both are mainly caused by acute cerebral hypoxia, because here low blood flow to the brain means of course also hypoxia is formed. So by removing the complete blood, actually what we do in animals, we did an experiment like before circulatory arrest, we completely remove the blood from the animals and preventing the clots. So actually here in this we also have a chance of clots. So what we do is, before the circulatory shock only we remove all the blood, and later we give the new blood after the shock. So because of like this we are doing this procedure, the person is able to withstand like about for 30 minutes without forming any clots in the blood. And treatment, we can also give heparin and streptokinase, because these are the anticoagulants which prevent the coagulation before the cardiac arrest, and increase the survivability of brain up to 2 to 4 times longer than the usual. So these treatments, this for all this we need to follow. And by this we completed our cardiovascular physiology. Very happy. So let us see the diagrams and complete this. So here you can see the necrosis of central portion of liver lobule during severe circulatory shock. So in severe circulatory shock, the blood flow is decreased to every major organ. So in liver also you can see the necrosis area. And next, coming to here, you can see the cardiac output in irreversible shock, progressive stage, transfusion. So when hemorrhage, you can see the cardiac output is progressively dropping. In irreversible shock, it's stuck here, whereas in progressive stage you can see it is trying to recover. Whereas if you're giving transfusion, you can see the treatment transfusion, again the values are trying to go back into progressive stage. And this is the final flow chart. The stages of shock and pathophysiological mechanisms at each stage. So you can see here the pathological process. Decrease in cardiac output is shock hero. There is decrease in cardiac output, decrease in tissue perfusion, and also decrease in blood pressure. So activation of mainly sympathetic nervous system play a major role. But if you remember, in cerebral and in coronary, there is autoregulation. So here heart, blood vessels, kidney, all these are activated. Compensatory state, increase heart rate, increase contractility in blood vessels, vasoconstriction in kidney, angiotensin is activated. So we'll see line wise it will be important. So heart increase in heart rate, contractility, further increase cardiac output. In blood vessels, vasoconstriction, increase blood pressure. In kidney, angiotensin is activated, aldosterone is activated, increase sodium water retention. So this all together lead to restoration of tissue perfusion, continued fluid loss, and again lead to progressive stage, failure of compensation by sympathetic nervous system, decreased perfusion, cellular hypoxia, anaerobic metabolism, finally reversible stage, cell death. So here you can see the three stages of shock, that is compensatory shock, progressive shock, irreversible shock. So by this we completed our circulatory shock and we have also completed the final CVS physiology.